Welcome to the Christian Healthy Lifestyle Podcast, where I help Christians over 40 maximize their health potential so they can age gracefully and live abundantly. I'm your host, David Sandstrom, naturopathic doctor and biblical health coach. Today we're in the middle of my series on the 9 pillars of health. And today we're going to be talking about pillar number 5, which is victory over limiting beliefs. Now, this is powerful because what we believe matters. Our beliefs lead to thoughts, speech, and actions. And if we want to maximize our health potential so that we can age gracefully and live abundantly, we're probably going to need to make some lifestyle changes. Now, lifestyle modification takes action. The reason why most people fail at their New Year's resolutions is because they haven't addressed their core beliefs. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to get to the root of what really motivates us to think, speak, and act the way we do, and how to make meaningful lifestyle changes that last. Now, I encourage you to stick around to the end because I've got an important announcement to make, and you're going to want to hear it. So stick around to the end of this episode. So there's all kinds of limiting beliefs that can impact our health outcomes. Now, I call them limiting beliefs because they limit our ability to reach our full potential as human beings. They limit our ability to live the abundant life. So the first thing we want to do when it comes to addressing limiting beliefs is we want to embrace truth. If I needed to get to your house and I didn't know where you lived, and you gave me your address and I put it in my GPS and I typed in the instructions wrong, I wouldn't get to your house, would I? I'd be forever looking for your house and the GPS wouldn't take me there. So beliefs that are based in truth will point us on the right course for aging gracefully and living abundantly. Now, many of you know I was an airline pilot for 35 years, and one of the things we practiced often in the simulator was engine failures. Now, I've actually had a couple of real-life engine failures in the airplane, but one of the things we do is when we lose an engine, or any emergency for that matter, pilots do, is one person flies the airplane, and the other pilot works the emergency, and he's going through the emergency checklist. Well, if you lose an engine, you're going to eventually want to shut the fuel off to that engine because you don't want a fire to start. So when it comes to reaching over to the fuel lever and turning it off, you pause and you put your hand on the fuel lever that you believe is the correct one, and you say to the flying pilot, "I believe I'm holding the number 1 fuel lever." And he stops what he's doing and he looks over and either confirms or denies what you believe is right. Because you have to get that one right. You don't want to shut off the fuel to the operating engine, the only one you have left. So we have to get that one right. Our lives literally depend on getting that right. Now, there are some core beliefs regarding our health that we have to get right as well. When it comes to healthy lifestyle choices, I suggest we live like our lives do depend on the actions we take because for many people, they literally do. If we make lifestyle choices that prevent a chronic degenerative disease from developing, we may very well avoid a premature death. This is not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating here. Now, there are lots of different people and lots of different beliefs that can act as blocking factors or limit our ability to pursue all the health that we're capable of. In this episode, I'm going to be covering a few of the more important beliefs when it comes to embracing a healthy lifestyle, but we can't possibly cover all the limiting beliefs that matter to health. But I'm going to show you how you can identify and correct your own limiting beliefs. I want to start off with 3 crucial questions that everyone that's embracing a healthy lifestyle should ask themselves. Now, I talk about these 3 questions in my book, The Christian's Guide to Holistic Health, but let me give you a quick overview, and then we're going to go over them one by one. Now, these 3 questions will help us examine our true beliefs. Question number 1 is, do I want to be well? Question number 2 is, do I believe I can be well? And question 3 is, do I believe I deserve to be well? So let's start off with question number 1, do I want to be well? In the book of John, chapter 5, Jesus was at the Bethesda pool with the disciples. Now, every big city has a hospital called the Bethesda Medical Center, right? Because people got healed at this pool. Now, what was going on there, when I read that account, doesn't sound to me like God's way of doing things. I believe this was probably some pagan temple, and there were some foul spirits at work here. It's not the way God works. But anyway, Jesus became aware of a guy who was lying there for 38 years waiting to be healed. And the Bible says that he had an infirmity. We don't know exactly what his infirmity was, but apparently he was unable to walk. And in John chapter 5, verse 6, we see this. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he has already been there for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" Now, doesn't that sound like a strange question? Why would he ask him that? Well, I think it's worth asking because, firstly, God doesn't force himself on anybody. He always respects our personal liberty. He honors our free will. Now, this guy had been in this condition for a long time, and he may have given up on ever being made whole again. And Jesus wanted to awaken a desire in him because our faith plays a role in our healing. And I often say, we have a role to play in our well-being. God does his part, but we've got to do ours as well. Jesus often uses the phrase, "Your faith has made you well." One of those examples is in Matthew chapter 9, verse 22. There was the woman with the issue of bleeding, and Jesus was making his way through the crowd, and she said to herself, "If I could just touch his cloak, then I would be healed." And she did, and Jesus felt power go out from him. And we see this in verse 22. Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly, the woman was made well. So we have a role to play. She had faith, and Jesus told her that it was her faith that made her well. So this guy who had the infirmity, he may have become comfortable with his condition. Maybe he was getting sympathy. Maybe he was relieved of some responsibility to work or something like that. And for us here in the 21st century, maybe there is some financial motive that someone has that would prevent them from wanting to be well. Maybe you're getting a disability check, and there's some financial reward to having this health condition. So this is a question worth asking. God can and does perform healing miracles, but we've got a role to play. What we believe and the thoughts we choose to ruminate on as a result of those beliefs play a powerful role in our health outcomes. What we believe matters. In previous episodes, we talked about the placebo effect. About a third of the time, when someone gets a placebo or a sugar pill or a saline injection, they actually experience the desired outcome that drug is purported to elicit. Now, the person experiencing the placebo effect alters their health outcome as a result of what they believe. So this topic is worth exploring. Now, I'm not saying that we can use the power of positive thinking to cure anything. All right? God is sovereign and he is in control. What I'm talking about is cooperating with God and being in alignment with his design principles for our spirit, mind, body connection. After all, his desire for us is to enjoy vibrant health. 3 John chapter 1, verse 2, "Beloved, I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be in good health." So that leads us to the next critical question. Do I believe I can be well? Now, in episode 158, I talked about mindset, and in that discussion, I talked about the concept of vitalism, and that is our bodies know how to heal. We don't have to teach our cells how to do their jobs. They already know how to do that, and our default setting is health. We have a God-given built-in intelligence that God put there for that reason, to help us to thrive. There's a gentleman by the name of Norman Cousins. He wrote a book called The Anatomy of an Illness, and he wrote a follow-up book to that called Head First. And in that book, Head First, he talks about his time at UCLA Medical Center, where he was their official mind-body medicine guy. And he wasn't an MD, but he was there to offer some consulting work and offer some encouragement and make some changes in the way they do healthcare. So he was shadowing an oncologist one day, and the oncologist had some bad news to break to a person. And he said something like this: "Mrs. Smith, I'm afraid you have cancer. It's a particularly aggressive form of the disease. I give you 3 months to live, and I recommend you go home and get your affairs in order." The woman walked out of the office completely dejected, shoulders slumped, as if she'd given up all hope. And Norman Cousins said to the doctor after she left, "Why did you give the news that way?" And the doctor said, I have a legal responsibility to inform my patients of their condition, and I don't want to be misunderstood. And Norman Cousins said, could you still deliver that information accurately and leave some room for hope? So he suggested the doctor take a different approach. And he said something like this, I'm paraphrasing. Get your hand off the doorknob. Sit down, look the patient in the eyes with compassion, and say something like this. Mrs. Smith, your lab results are in, and I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. It is cancer, and it's a particularly aggressive form of the disease. Pause to let the news sink in. Now, you've got an uphill battle ahead of you, but I want you to know that you're not alone. I'm here for you, and so is the staff at this hospital. And everyone in this facility is willing to do everything in our power to help see you through this. I want you to know that the prognosis is not good, but there are people that have received the very same news that I'm giving you right now and gone on to live healthy, productive lives for many years and are enjoying their families today. In fact, we have one of those people right here in the office today. I'd like you to meet her. Her name is Susie. So delivering the news in that fashion would leave room for hope. Now, I believe that anybody that received a cancer diagnosis in the harsh fashion that Mrs. Smith did, and then went on to beat it, had to say to themselves something like this. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I'll bet the chances are very good that they said to themselves something like, that doctor's not God. He doesn't know the future. I believe I can beat this. I'm going to beat the odds, and I'm going to be one of those people that is a survivor. If you were to listen to that prognosis, I give you 3 months to live. Go home and get your affairs in order. If you were to take that in and believe that as true, it would be a severe handicap to you actually overcoming this problem, this cancer diagnosis. So what we believe truly does matter. Do I believe I can be well? It's a very important question. Now, we've got to believe that our bodies can heal. Again, God gave us that built-in intelligence, and our default setting is health. Again, God can and does perform healing miracles, but I'm advocating a much more proactive approach. And I think this is very biblical. If you look at this passage here, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 28 through 31. I've cut out a little bit here just for brevity's sake, but this is really important. Listen to this. God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healings. All are not workers of miracles, are they? All do not have gifts of healings, do they? And then in verse 31, but earnestly desire the greater gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way. The more excellent way is to take a much more proactive approach to your health and well-being. Now remember, it's not God's perfect will to heal you. God's perfect will is that you not get sick in the first place. So that brings us to crucial question number 3. Do I believe I deserve to be well? Now, excess guilt can lead us to believe that we don't deserve wellness. Someone might believe that God is somehow punishing them for something they've done. Now, we got to understand, God doesn't punish us for our sins. The damage and the turmoil that our sin produces is enough. God is not an angry tyrant just waiting to pounce on us when we mess up. Some people see God like they see the police hiding behind a bush with a radar gun pointed at us, just ready to write us a ticket for speeding. So you may be saying, well, is that biblical, Dave? What about all those passages about the wrath of God? God's wrath is when he removes his hand of protection and allows us to suffer the consequences of our poor choices. Now, we see this laid out for us in the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. The wrath of God is when God says, I really wish you'd do it my way, but you're free to choose. And I'm telling you, if you don't listen to me and you continue in your rebellion, that path will lead you to destruction, but you're free to choose. Back in Romans 1, starting in verse 21. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. And then in verse 24, therefore God gave them over in the lusts of their hearts to impurity. Verse 26, for this reason God gave them over to degrading passions. Verse 28, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do things which are not proper. When we do things that are not proper or behave in an unrighteous manner, the outcome is generally not good. Proverbs 14:12. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. That's the wrath of God. God's not angry at us when we sin. He's heartbroken, like any loving parent, because he knows sin damages the ones he loves. If you want to explore this topic a little bit more, listen to my episode 154, where I talk about love for God. So, what does victory over limiting beliefs look like in real life? Well, we've got to ask ourselves, is this belief that I'm holding serving my health-building efforts, or is it working against them? Is this belief based in truth, or does my understanding need to be adjusted? If so, what changes do I need to make? Now, I created a PDF that you can download for free. I'll put a link in the show notes. I call it the ABCDE method. Now, I first put this PDF together to identify and correct unhealthy thinking patterns in terms of enhancing our relationships. But we can easily adapt it to limiting beliefs. A stands for activating event, or the activity that we suspect might not be serving our health-building efforts. B stands for beliefs or self-talk that produces the activity or inactivity. So we've got to address our beliefs, right? C stands for consequences, or what's the outcome to doing things that way. D stands for disputing our long-held beliefs. And E stands for enjoying the energy shift. So let's go through an example, a real-life example of what this might look like. A for activity. Let's say, for example, I am not taking a Sabbath rest and I'm working 7 days a week. So let's take B, the beliefs that go along with that motivate that behavior. Well, why do you not take a Sabbath rest? Why do you work 7 days a week? Someone might say, well, I don't have the time. I've got too much to do. Well, let's move on to C, consequences. Where is that going to take me? What's going to be the natural result of me continuing to do this? The natural result would logically be burnout, not looking forward to my work, just making it difficult to find joy in the work, being less productive. So those consequences would not be health promoting, would they? So let's move on to D, disputing. We need to slow down here because this is very important. This is a very important part because no one wants to be wrong. So the belief of I don't have enough time. God ordained 24 hours in a day or 168 hours in a week. So do I have any less time than any other human being? No. Do I have all the time in the world? Yes. So do I really not have enough time, or am I just overscheduling myself? Am I trying to cram 10 pounds of dung into a 5-pound bag? Am I simply overscheduling? Probably yes. So, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give myself permission 1 day a week to let go of the work, hit the pause button on work, and enjoy some downtime. For the next 4 Sundays, I'm going to take off and do some recreation. Maybe I'll get outdoors, certainly enjoy some family time. I'm going to commit to that for 4 weeks and see what happens. So 4 weeks later, we enjoy the energy shift. That's the E. So I observe how I feel with the change. Now, with that change, might be a little uncomfortable at first, might be a little apprehensive about doing this. Well, what about all that work? Well, when you do get back to work, you're going to be more productive. So following the command to do all our work in 6 days, again, has our well-being and our productivity in mind. And the studies will back this up as well. So what else is going to happen? What might we observe? Well, we're going to start to unwind a little. We're going to feel more rested. We're going to have more anticipation when we think about going back to work instead of dread. and will be more productive. So those changes can create space for more love, joy, and peace, which are all health promoting. Now, this is not rocket science, but we have to be proactive. We have to want change. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Well, one, but the light bulb has to want to be changed. Okay, so this process can be used with any thought, speech, or action that you suspect needs improvement, that you suspect might be working against your health-seeking efforts. Now, of course, as I said at the top of the episode, there's a lot more limiting beliefs that would need to be addressed. They're all individual. There are a couple of limiting beliefs that I started to include in my notes here when I was preparing for this episode, but it was just going to get too long. But a couple of the limiting beliefs that I'd like to do future episodes on. One is the concept of genetic determinism. And that's the idea that our genes, the genetic programming that we inherit from our parents, are in control of our biology. And that's just simply not true. Genes have influence, but they're not the number one factor that determines our health outcomes. Lifestyle choices are. Now, there's a lot to be said on that, so I'm going to look for a full episode on that in the near future. Another limiting belief is this one, and this one needs to be set to rest, and that is calories in versus calories out is the secret to weight loss. All right, so if you're, the notion is that if you're overweight and you want to lose weight, you've just got to eat less and exercise more. Well, that is a fallacy. That has set a lot of people up to sabotage their own health and set them up for a lifetime of struggle with their weight. I've said this before, but I'll take a whole episode to go into this in the near future. But we don't lose weight to get healthy. We get healthy in order to lose weight because a healthy person doesn't struggle with their weight. So counting calories is pretty close to a waste of time. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I'm gonna take a deep dive on that in the near future. We're going to do a whole episode on that. All right. So as promised, here's my announcement. I have made a significant upgrade to my Fullscript dispensary. I've created protocols that you can access for free by creating an account using my sign-up link. Now, Fullscript has fantastic, professional, medical-grade supplements that you can't buy retail. In the past, after creating an account, you had to search for products on your own. Fullscript has hundreds of brands and thousands of products to choose from, and it could be a little overwhelming. Now, I've done the heavy lifting for you. I've used my experience as a healthcare practitioner and curated some of my favorite products and created protocols that I've made available to anyone in the natural nation, anyone that listens to this show and creates a Fullscript account using my sign-up link. The protocols are designed to support many of the common health challenges. I've got a weight loss support protocol on there, blood sugar protocol, a sleep protocol, inflammation support, a men's libido support, a fitness support. I have a protocol on there for essential everyday nutrients. I've even got a protocol on there for non-toxic body care as well. I've got dosing instructions in there, and many of the protocols have PDF downloads that provide additional information regarding that specific health concern. At the time of this recording, there's 18 protocols on the website, and I'll be adding more to the lineup in the near future. So do yourself a favor. Take advantage of this opportunity. There's no reason not to. Go to my website, christianhealthylifestyle.com/protocols. Click on the Learn More button. And if you already have a Fullscript account with me, you'll have direct access to my protocols. If you haven't created an account yet, all you have to do is choose a username and password and be all set up with your free account. You'll also lock in a 10% discount for life and free shipping on orders over $50. This is a no-brainer, folks. If you care about your health, and I know you do if you're listening to this show, I encourage you to go and sign up today. Now, don't go anywhere because the next episode is going to be pillar number 6, which is practicing emotional intelligence. We're the ones in charge of our emotions, and our emotions should be serving us. We shouldn't be slaves to them. It's going to be good. You don't want to miss it. That's it for now. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Go out there and live abundantly. I'll talk with you next time. Be blessed.